The wrestling world just exploded, and if you thought you knew what chaos looked like in WWE, you were dead wrong. What I'm about to show you will leave your jaw on the floor and your mind completely blown, because Brock Lesnar didn't just return to WWE, he returned with a vengeance so devastating, so absolutely brutal, that it's already being called the most shocking comeback in modern wrestling history. Bronson Reed thought he was unstoppable, thought he was the new monster on the block, but he just learned the hard way that there's only one Beast Incarnate in WWE, and his name is Brock Lesnar. 8 months. 8 long months the WWE Universe has been waiting, wondering, speculating about when the German suplex machine would make his presence felt again, and when he finally did, it wasn't just a return, it was a statement written in blood, sweat, and pure unadulterated destruction. Bronson Reed, the man who's been bulldozing through superstars like they're cardboard cutouts, just got a reality check so harsh that it'll probably give him nightmares for the rest of his career. But here's what nobody saw coming. Here's what has the entire wrestling community losing their collective minds. This wasn't just about Lesnar making a comeback. This was about sending a message to every single superstar in that locker room that the food chain just got reshuffled, and guess who's back at the very top? The Beast who conquered the Undertaker's streak, the man who made John Cena look like an amateur, the absolute specimen who turned Roman Reigns into a punching bag, is back, and he's hungrier than ever. Let me paint you the picture of what went down, because if you missed this moment live, you missed witnessing wrestling history being rewritten in real time. The arena was electric, the crowd was buzzing, and then those familiar opening notes hit, you know the ones, that spine-chilling entrance music that makes every superstar backstage check their life insurance policies. The place went absolutely nuclear as Brock Lesnar emerged, not with his usual cocky swagger, but with something far more terrifying, controlled rage mixed with 8 months of pent-up aggression. Now, before we dive deeper into this absolute masterpiece of destruction, I need you to answer this in the comments. Who do you think was more shocked by Lesnar's return, Bronson Reed getting demolished, or the WWE creative team realizing they just witnessed their next 6 months of storylines write themselves? Drop your thoughts below, because this debate is already tearing the wrestling community apart. Bronson Reed, bless his heart, probably thought he was ready. This is a man who's been throwing his weight around, literally and figuratively, making a name for himself as one of WWE's most dominant forces. At 330 pounds of pure muscle and attitude, Reed has been steamrolling through opponents like a freight train with anger management issues. He's the kind of competitor who doesn't just beat you, he obliterates you, leaves you questioning your career choices, and makes you wonder if professional wrestling was really the right path in life. But here's the thing about Brock Lesnar that separates him from every other returning superstar: he doesn't just come back to compete, he comes back to remind everyone why he's called the Beast Incarnate. This isn't some feel-good comeback story about overcoming adversity or finding inner strength. This is about a genetic freak of nature who spent 8 months away from the ring, probably getting even more jacked, even more dangerous, and definitely more motivated to prove that Father Time is just another opponent he can suplex into oblivion. The moment Lesnar's music hit, you could see the shift in Bronson Reed's demeanor. The confidence, the swagger, the "I own this ring" attitude, it all evaporated faster than a cheap suit in a thunderstorm. Reed suddenly realized he wasn't dealing with just another returning legend looking for one last moment in the spotlight. He was staring down the barrel of a human wrecking machine who's made a career out of ending careers and crushing dreams with surgical precision. What happened next wasn't just a wrestling match, it was a clinic in controlled violence that should be shown in wrestling schools as an example of what happens when unstoppable force meets a movable object, except in this case, Bronson Reed learned he wasn't quite as immovable as he thought. Lesnar circled Reed like a predator sizing up his prey, and you could practically see the calculation happening behind those cold, calculating eyes. This wasn't about putting on a show for the crowd, this was about making a statement that would echo through the WWE locker room for months to come. The first German suplex came out of nowhere, and I mean nowhere. 1 second Reed was trying to establish his dominance, the next second he was flying through the air like a 330-pound missile with absolutely no control over his trajectory. The sound that echoed through the arena when Reed's back hit the mat wasn't just impact, it was the sound of reality setting in for everyone watching. This wasn't going to be a competitive back-and-forth encounter between two monsters. This was going to be an execution. But Lesnar wasn't done, oh no. He was just getting started. The second German suplex came with even more violence, more authority, more "I've been away for 8 months and I have 8 months worth of frustration to work out on your spine" energy. Reed bounced off the mat like he was made of rubber, except rubber doesn't usually look that confused and disoriented after impact. Here's your next comment question, and this one's crucial: how many German suplexes do you think it takes to permanently rearrange someone's skeletal system? Because after watching what Lesnar did to Reed, I'm starting to think the answer might be fewer than you'd expect. Let me know your thoughts below. The third German suplex was where things went from impressive to absolutely terrifying. Lesnar didn't just lift Reed, he launched him with the kind of force usually reserved for NASA space programs. The height, the rotation, the devastating impact, it was like watching physics and violence collaborate on a masterpiece of human destruction. Reed hit the mat so hard that seismologists probably detected it 3 states away. But what made this even more incredible was Lesnar's demeanor throughout the entire assault. This wasn't wild, uncontrolled aggression, this was calculated, methodical dismantling of an opponent who'd probably spent the last 8 months thinking he was the toughest guy on the roster. Lesnar moved with the confidence of someone who knows exactly how much damage each move is going to cause and is taking genuine professional satisfaction in the precision of his work. The crowd was losing their minds, and rightfully so. You don't just witness the return of one of WWE's most dominant forces without your brain short-circuiting from the sheer magnitude of what you're seeing. These people paid good money to watch professional wrestling, and instead they got a front-row seat to what happens when an apex predator decides to remind everyone why they're at the top of the food chain. Bronson Reed, to his credit, tried to mount some offense. The man's not lacking in heart or determination, and at 330 pounds, he's not exactly someone you can just push around under normal circumstances. But these weren't normal circumstances, these were Brock Lesnar has been away for 8 months and someone's about to pay the price circumstances, which operate under completely different laws of physics and common sense. Every time Reed tried to gain momentum, Lesnar shut it down with the kind of effortless superiority that makes you wonder if they're even competing in the same sport. It was like watching a professional heavyweight boxer spar with someone who just learned what punching was 5 minutes ago. The skill gap wasn't just noticeable, it was a chasm so wide you could probably fit the Grand Canyon in it with room to spare. The German suplexes kept coming, each one more devastating than the last, each one driving home the point that Brock Lesnar's 8-month absence hadn't dulled his skills, if anything, it had sharpened them to a razor's edge. Reed was getting tossed around like a rag doll in a hurricane, and the worst part was you could see the exact moment when he realized that this wasn't going to end well for him. And then came the setup for the F5, and if you've been watching WWE for more than 5 minutes, you know that when Lesnar sets up for the F5, someone's about to have a very bad day that they'll remember for the rest of their lives. The way he positioned Reed, the look of pure focused intensity on his face, the crowd rising to their feet in anticipation, it was like watching a master craftsman prepare to complete his magnum opus. The F5 itself was a thing of beauty and terror rolled into one devastating package. Lesnar hoisted Reed up like he weighed about as much as a bag of groceries, spun him around with the kind of velocity that probably violated several laws of physics, and then drove him into the mat with enough force to register on the Richter scale. Reed hit the canvas and stayed there, not because he was following a script, but because his body had just been introduced to forces that human anatomy isn't really designed to handle. But here's what separated this F5 from all the others we've seen over the years: the precision, the timing, the sheer devastating effectiveness of it. This wasn't just Lesnar hitting his finishing move, this was Lesnar making a statement that said, "I'm back, I'm better than ever, and if you thought 8 months away made me soft, you were catastrophically wrong." Comment question number 3, what do you think went through Bronson Reed's mind during that F5? Was it, "Why did I choose professional wrestling as a career?" Or, "I wonder if my health insurance covers being supernaturally obliterated by a genetic freak"? Let me know in the comments. The aftermath was equally telling. Lesnar didn't celebrate like someone who just won a hard-fought victory, he surveyed the destruction like someone who just completed a routine Tuesday workout. Reed was laid out flat, probably questioning every life choice that had led him to that moment, while Lesnar looked like he could go another 8 rounds without breaking a sweat. This is what 8 months away from WWE does to Brock Lesnar. It doesn't make him rusty or out of practice, it makes him hungrier, more dangerous, and apparently even more capable of turning human beings into abstract art projects using nothing but raw power and years of accumulated wrestling expertise. The implications of this return are staggering when you really think about them. Every superstar in the WWE locker room just watched one of their colleagues get systematically dismantled by someone who's been away from the company for 8 months. That's not just intimidating, that's the kind of reality check that makes grown men reconsider their career paths and start looking into safer professions like lion taming or bomb disposal. Roman Reigns, wherever he is, probably felt a chill run down his spine the moment Lesnar's music hit. Seth Rollins likely started doing extra cardio just in case. Drew McIntyre probably checked his calendar to see when his contract expires. This wasn't just Lesnar returning, this was Lesnar serving notice to everyone in WWE that the landscape just shifted dramatically and permanently. But let's talk about what this means for Bronson Reed's future, because getting demolished by Brock Lesnar isn't necessarily a career-ending event, sometimes it's a career-defining one. Look at the list of superstars who've been on the receiving end of Lesnar's destruction over the years. Some of them used it as motivation to come back stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. Others, well, let's just say they found other ways to contribute to the wrestling business. Reed has two choices now: he can let this beating define him as just another victim of the Beast Incarnate, or he can use it as fuel to elevate his game to levels he never knew existed. The best wrestlers in history have all had moments where they got absolutely destroyed by someone better than them, and the ones who became legends were the ones who learned from it and came back harder. Here's comment question 4. Do you think this destruction will motivate Bronson Reed to reach new heights? Or do you think he'll be looking over his shoulder every time he hears entrance music for the rest of his career? Your predictions could shape how we see Reed's character development moving forward. The technical aspects of what Lesnar displayed in this return were absolutely phenomenal. 8 months away from active competition, and he looked like he'd been training every single day for this exact moment. The timing on those German suplexes was surgical, not too fast that they lost their impact, not too slow that they lost their intensity. Each one was perfectly executed with the kind of precision that comes from years of experience and natural athletic ability that most people can only dream about. The conditioning was equally impressive. Lesnar didn't show any signs of ring rust, didn't look winded, didn't miss a step. If anything, he looked more focused and dangerous than ever before. 8 months away from the spotlight apparently didn't make him soft, it made him hungry, and hungry Brock Lesnar is the most dangerous version of an already extremely dangerous human being. What's truly terrifying for the rest of the WWE roster is that this felt like Lesnar wasn't even operating at full capacity. This felt like him getting back into the groove, shaking off the cobwebs, and reminding himself how much he enjoys the art of controlled violence within the squared circle. If this was Lesnar at 75% capacity, what's going to happen when he's fully dialed in and ready to unleash everything he's been storing up during his 8-month hiatus? The psychological impact of this return extends far beyond just Bronson Reed. Every wrestler backstage just watched one of their colleagues get methodically destroyed by someone who made it look effortless. That's the kind of demonstration that changes locker room dynamics overnight. Suddenly everyone's wondering if they're really as tough as they thought they were, if their finishing moves would even register against someone like Lesnar, if their game plan accounts for facing someone who operates on a completely different level of athletic ability and competitive intensity. The crowd reaction throughout this entire encounter was absolutely electric. These weren't just fans watching a wrestling match, these were witnesses to a moment in WWE history that will be talked about for years to come. The energy in that arena was palpable, the excitement was infectious, and the collective holy crap moment when Lesnar's music first hit will be replayed in highlight packages until the end of time. But here's what made this return even more special: it wasn't telegraphed, it wasn't spoiled by dirt sheets, it wasn't leaked on social media. This was a genuine surprise in an era where genuine surprises are becoming increasingly rare in professional wrestling. The shock value was authentic, the reactions were real, and the impact was immediate and undeniable. Comment question 5. In an age where everything gets leaked online, how refreshing was it to experience a genuine surprise return? Do you think WWE should do more surprise appearances? Or do you prefer knowing what's coming so you can prepare emotionally? This could determine how WWE approaches future storylines. The storytelling potential that opens up from this return is absolutely massive. Lesnar's back, he's made his statement, and now every major storyline in WWE has to account for the presence of someone who can change the entire trajectory of the company with a single F5. Championship pictures that seemed settled are now wide open. Feuds that seemed predictable are now completely unpredictable. The entire WWE landscape just shifted in ways that will take months to fully understand and appreciate. For Bronson Reed, this could be the beginning of the most important character development of his career. Getting destroyed by Lesnar isn't shameful, it's educational. Some of WWE's biggest stars have their best stories begin with getting absolutely demolished by someone who showed them how much higher the bar could be set. Reed has the physical tools and the mental toughness to use this as motivation rather than discouragement, and if he's smart, he'll study every second of what happened to him and use it as a blueprint for improvement. The technical execution of Lesnar's offense was a clinic in efficiency and effectiveness. Every move served a purpose, every transition was smooth, every impact was calculated for maximum damage and minimum wasted energy. This wasn't just athletic superiority, this was strategic superiority, the kind that comes from years of experience at the highest levels of professional wrestling and legitimate competition. What's particularly impressive is how Lesnar adapted to Bronson Reed's size and style so quickly. Reed isn't some cruiserweight who can be tossed around easily, he's a legitimate heavyweight with legitimate power and legitimate athletic ability. For Lesnar to make it look effortless speaks to his incredible ability to adjust his approach based on his opponent while never compromising the fundamental principles that make him so devastatingly effective. The timing of this return couldn't be more perfect for WWE's current landscape. With so many storylines needing fresh energy and so many superstars needing new challenges, Lesnar's presence immediately elevates everything around him. Suddenly matches that might have felt predictable become must-see television. Suddenly championships that might have felt settled become up for grabs. Suddenly the entire roster has to step up their game just to survive in an environment where Brock Lesnar is an active participant. Here's comment question 6. Which current WWE champion do you think is most worried about Lesnar's return? The Universal Champion? The WWE Champion? Someone else entirely? Your answer might predict the next few months of WWE programming. The athletic display we witnessed wasn't just impressive, it was inspirational for anyone who's ever wondered what peak human performance looks like. Lesnar at his best represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible when natural talent meets relentless training meets competitive fire that burns hotter than the surface of the sun. Watching him operate is like watching a masterclass in how to maximize every advantage you have while minimizing every weakness that might slow you down. The impact on WWE's creative direction moving forward cannot be overstated. Lesnar's return doesn't just add one more superstar to the roster, it fundamentally changes how every storyline has to be approached. Writers who thought they had the next 6 months mapped out just realized they need to start over from scratch because the presence of Brock Lesnar changes everything about how WWE programming has to be structured. For Bronson Reed, the immediate aftermath is going to be crucial. How he responds to this destruction will determine whether this becomes a footnote in his career or the catalyst that launches him to new heights. The best wrestlers in history have all had moments where they got exposed by someone better, and the ones who became legends were the ones who used those moments as motivation to reach levels they never knew existed. The crowd's energy throughout this entire encounter was absolutely infectious. These weren't just fans watching entertainment, these were witnesses to a moment that will be discussed and dissected for years to come. The genuine shock, the authentic excitement, the collective realization that they were watching something special happen in real time, that's the kind of moment that reminds you why live professional wrestling is unlike anything else in entertainment. Comment question 7. If you were in that arena when Lesnar's music hit, what do you think your reaction would have been? Pure excitement? Complete shock? Immediate concern for Bronson Reed's well-being? The atmosphere in that building must have been absolutely electric. The psychological warfare aspect of this return is particularly fascinating. Lesnar didn't just beat Bronson Reed, he sent a message to every superstar in WWE that the rules of engagement just changed dramatically. Everyone now has to account for the possibility that at any moment, their carefully planned storylines could be interrupted by 285 pounds of controlled violence with a legitimate amateur wrestling background and a professional fighting resume that includes conquering The Undertaker's WrestleMania streak. The technical aspects of those German suplexes deserve special recognition because they weren't just powerful, they were perfectly executed works of art. The setup, the lift, the rotation, the impact, every component was flawless, and the fact that Lesnar made it look effortless while dealing with a 330-pound opponent speaks to athletic ability that exists on a completely different plane from most professional wrestlers. What made the F5 even more devastating was the build-up to it. By the time Lesnar set Reed up for his finishing move, everyone in that arena knew exactly what was coming, but that knowledge somehow made it even more impactful when it actually happened. That's the mark of a truly special performer, the ability to telegraph what's coming and still make it shocking when it arrives. The conditioning displayed by Lesnar throughout this encounter was absolutely remarkable. 8 months away from active competition, and he looked like he'd been wrestling every week during that entire period. No ring rust, no timing issues, no conditioning concerns, just peak athletic performance from someone who clearly never stopped preparing for this exact moment. For WWE's roster, this return represents both opportunity and existential threat. Opportunity because working with Lesnar elevates everyone around him and creates storylines that write themselves. Threat because Lesnar's presence immediately raises the bar for what's considered elite-level performance, and not everyone is going to be able to clear that bar. The storytelling possibilities that emerge from this return are virtually limitless. Lesnar could target champions, he could target rising stars, he could target old rivals, he could target anyone who's been getting comfortable in his absence. The unpredictability is what makes it so compelling. When Brock Lesnar is involved, anything can happen and usually does. Comment question 8. What's the first storyline you want to see develop from Lesnar's return? A championship chase? A revenge angle? Something completely unexpected? Your ideas might predict where WWE takes this incredible momentum. The crowd reaction when that F5 connected was absolutely thunderous, and rightfully so. These fans had just witnessed not just the return of a legend, but the return of a legend operating at peak capacity against a legitimate opponent who brought everything he had to offer. The fact that it wasn't even close somehow made it even more impressive rather than less compelling. The implications for WWE's creative direction are staggering when you really think about them. Every major storyline now has to account for Brock Lesnar's presence. Every championship picture just became infinitely more interesting. Every rising star just got a new measuring stick against which their progress will be evaluated. The entire landscape of WWE programming just shifted in ways that will take months to fully understand. What's particularly impressive about this return is how it managed to be both exactly what you'd expect from Brock Lesnar and completely surprising at the same time. You expect dominance, you expect German suplexes, you expect the F5, but the execution was so perfect, so devastating, so absolutely comprehensive that it exceeded even the highest expectations. The aftermath of this encounter is going to reverberate through WWE programming for months to come. Bronson Reed will have to deal with the psychological impact of getting destroyed so thoroughly. Other superstars will have to adjust their expectations and preparation knowing that Lesnar is back and more dangerous than ever. Creative teams will have to completely rethink storylines that seemed settled just minutes before Lesnar's music hit. For wrestling fans, this return represents everything that's great about professional wrestling when it's operating at its highest level. Surprise, athleticism, storytelling, genuine emotion, and moments that will be talked about for years to come. It's the complete package delivered by someone who represents the absolute pinnacle of what's possible in sports entertainment. The technical execution throughout this entire encounter was absolutely flawless. Every movement had purpose, every transition was smooth, every impact was calculated for maximum effectiveness. This wasn't just brute force, this was educated violence delivered by someone who understands exactly how to maximize damage while minimizing risk to both participants. Comment question 9. After witnessing this level of dominance, do you think there's anyone currently on the WWE roster who could legitimately challenge Brock Lesnar in a straight fight? The answer to this question might determine the next several months of WWE programming. The crowd energy throughout this entire sequence was absolutely infectious, and you could feel the electricity through the screen. These weren't just fans watching entertainment, these were witnesses to a genuine moment in wrestling history that will be referenced and replayed for years to come. Brock Lesnar's shocking return to WWE isn't just a comeback story, it's a declaration of war against anyone who thought 8 months away would somehow diminish the most dangerous superstar in WWE history. The destruction of Bronson Reed was just the opening statement in what promises to be an absolutely devastating chapter in WWE programming, and everyone in that locker room better start preparing for the possibility that they could be next on the Beast Incarnate's list. If you thought tonight's story was wild, trust me, what happens next will blow your mind. So don't stop now. Click on the video right here on your screen to continue the chaos, the drama, and the inside scoop only we deliver. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and join the wrestling newsletter family where the real stories of WWE come to life. See you in the next one.